is your weekly news roundup on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
And yes, we are right back with this conversation. Like you can hear, it's quite interesting right inside here. And we've got a lot of insights from the analysts that are already in the studio. We have Nicholas Oyoo. Remember, he was, will I say kidnapped? You were put in the fridge.
You were abducted.
You were put in the fridge.
You were abducted by Kenya government and Uganda government. We are very clear on that.
Yeah. Okay. So that is you. Okay, that is you, because I remember the Ugandan president coming out and saying that yes, I put them in the fridge. That's what he told us. And then Kenyans were like, they thought it is the literal the fridge itself. Yeah, but of course I know it was not easy
for Kenyans for fighting for us.
Yes,
even my colleagues here fought for us.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we also have Mucendu here, who is one of the directors at the Konza Technopolis.
Yes.
Yeah, and he said that actually I think that is where Singapore will start.
No, Singapore has already started.
According to how you've explained it,
yes.
Singapore is starting at Konza Technopolis.
You know, I told your colleagues in the morning show, and I will still repeat this. I am more than glad to facilitate a visit to Konza. It is my joy to see them reporting on what they see with their own eyes. And you know, there is a lot of strength and a lot of trust in what you see than what is reported to you.
We also have one Philip Langat, ni wakili pia. Wakili, kuna hii story ya IEBC.
Yes.
Is it mambo na boundaries and whatever towards 2027?
Absolutely.
How about it?
Yeah, if you have been following that story, it's actually me. I am the petitioner.
Yes, I saw. Yeah,
it's Philip Langat versus IEBC and others, and that case is still active in court. In fact, I will not want to discuss it in detail because again that would amount to what we call in law sub judice. We do not like to discuss matters that are actively in court.
Sure.
But just to lay the basis of what we were doing in court is that we, for one, we know that there is the boundaries review. The boundaries review has to happen all 6 to 8 years, every after 6 to 8 years.
Yes.
All right. And that is a constitutional provision that after 6 years we need to do a boundary review. We need to do what we call, take stock of our population and see whether the constituencies that we have are still functional or dysfunctional. For example, I'll give an example of my own constituency. For example, Bureti constituency, which has exceeded the population quota that is required for a constituency. There is a quota that is required for a geographical place to be called a constituency.
Yeah.
But my own constituency has actually exceeded. And those are the challenges that we are facing. So that if you, for example, have a CDF, if you are disbursing 100 million, for example, to a constituency like Bureti, it will not be similar to a constituency like Dujis or what is now called Garissa town constituency. Because 100 million in Dujis can do a lot more than what it can do in Bureti constituency. Considering that in Bureti, for example, we have a vast population of people. So, indeed, the IBC have responded to our petition. They have said that, of course, we only have constitutionally mandated 290 constituencies, and it will be very hard for us to change that. But they are only saying that because they have not carried out the delimitation of boundaries and the review of the boundaries.
Yes.
But they have also told the court that we are on course to do the delimitation and review of the boundaries, but it shall be done piecemeal. It cannot be done, at one go. It has to be done in phases, piecemeal, one step at a time. So we are happy with that. There is a progress because we have started the conversation. The conversation is now in court. And IBC, I think, in as much as they have the capacity in terms of the committee that was newly brought into place, they also have challenges with finances, which they have clearly laid out that we will need an additional millions of money to carry out that exercise. But this is an exercise that I'm very happy to be part of. This is a discourse. A conversation that all Kenyans must get into, because we are talking about dynamics that are changing in our country. For example, in 2009, when we carried out, I think, the last census, the population of this country was, we're talking about 40 million people. Right now, we are doing 60 million people.
Yeah.
There are what we call community ties. If you look at people from Kuria, for example, they had started clamoring for independence, for lack of a better word. They feel that them being lumped together with Kisis and Luos is a bit discriminatory on their side. So they wanted a constituency on their own, and they got it. I think they have Kuria East and Kuria West. But they have also pushed it to the extent that they now want a county of their own. And I cannot blame them, because that is what we call communal ties. Some of these people, we like the Maasais. All right, the Maasais have regrouped themselves together and they have said we need Kajiado County and we have a Narok County. The Kalenjin is also on the other side. So there are so many dynamics that are taking place, but the most important one is the population. There is a population is growing.
Yeah.
In a geometric sequence. It is not growing like 1, 2, 3, 4. It is growing from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. You
can't predict.
People are expanding the population, and therefore we need to delimit our boundaries and see whether we will sustain the 290 constituencies, and if so, should we add? And if we are not able to sustain, can we remove them? So what I can say to this forum is that we have a discussion that is ongoing, and the beauty about it is that we already are in court for the same. We are discussing in court now, and we don't know what IBC are going to say, but the thing is, they have a constitutional mandate to review the boundaries and to carry out delimitation of the boundaries afresh.
So that means we need to get back to the census.
Absolutely. We normally do census, I think. When is the next? We did in 2019.
The next one is in 3 years.
In 3 years. So, but the constitution say before you go to the general election, 1 year too, you must carry out the delimitation of boundaries and review. Let me give a very few a small example before we move on to the next panelists. In my county, for example, Kericho County, it used to be called the Kericho Municipal. It is now defunct municipal. What was it? Town municipal. There is a place in Moroni where the county government of Kericho used to collect revenue from. But recently, when Anyang' Nyong'o became the governor for Kisumu, he took over that place and said this place belongs to Kisumu. Moroni, I think Nick might know. There kuna viwanda pale who are now giving wanapatiana rates to ushuru to Kisumu County. But previously, if you look at the historical records, it used to be a property of Kericho County. If you go to the boundary between Nyamira County and Kericho County, we had a river that used to separate the two counties. But today, Nyamira has also encroached to the other side of Kericho County. Even here between Kajiado and Machakos, there is a border dispute that I remember Mr. Alfred Mutua was trying to deal with the then governor for Kajiado.
Yes.
So we have issues.
Not even Kajiado, even Makueni County. I remember with Taita Taveta County. Yes.
There are so many issues at the boundaries. And these are real issues that are affecting the daily lives of Kenyans. All right. For example, issues to do with taxes and where we are supposed to remit them, whether it is this county or the other, is a real issue. It is an alive issue which has to be dealt with. So we are calling upon the IBC to do their mandate, which they are constitutionally allowed to do. And what we were actually calling for is urgency. All right, because there has been laxity on the side of the IEBC in terms of dealing with some of these issues. So, but we believe that going forward, they have to do those things, and this is a very, very paramount exercise that has to be carried out.
So this one is targeted before 2027?
Absolutely, and I do not know what they are going to do, because they said they don't have the funding. The only funding that they have is for carrying out by-elections. Yes. You remember we had, I think, 19...
asking for more money.
They are even asking for more money, because we had almost 19 by by-elections, I don't know, and very many
23.
for MC23 actually. So they only said we had the budget for by-elections, and then for the voter clean up of the voter registry, and then also registration again afresh of the Gen Zs, because Gen Zs were told go and namuchukue kura. So that is the only budget that high BC has. But as to whether they will go into delimitation and review of the boundaries is neither here nor there. It's a question that is before the courts.
Okay, so I don't know whether there's something you need to add around that.
I just want to say that we are looking at it, and if you look at a country like China, for instance, you look at the US, you look at even UK, you won't find situations of delimiting boundaries.
Yes.
Because what happens, US has had 100 senators all through its life as 300 and something years. And those are things that we must ask ourselves as Kenyans. Because there is a point that we lose a lot of, not just resources, we even lose friendlyhoods, we lose, there is a lot of blood that is done, there's a lot of fights going on in those boundaries and constituencies and what have you. And if you start giving counties to Kuria, wait a minute, you will see 43 other groups that are saying we don't want to be in this county, we want our county. So what we are saying is this: we must reach a point to look at this constitution. This constitution, and I want to make people understand that a constitution is a live document, is a living document. You can even pass a constitution today and tomorrow you need to do changes. The US constitution was changed in 2 years. After 2 years they passed the constitution, they had to change it. There was no Bill of Rights. So a lot of those changes, I think about 12 of them, happened because of Bill of Rights. So you find that we are looking at some of those things and we are saying, do we really need constituencies in this country? Because if it is members of parliament, they have roles. It is oversight, representation, and legislation. And that task does not need you to come from a certain area to come and say, we can actually have a situation where we elect them from the counties and they go into the national, into parliament. And we elect from the constituencies, they go to county assemblies. That is what we are proposing us. Because we are saying these issues are going to cause us problems in this country. We are going to always have fights every time. We are going to lose resources. We are losing a lot of resources as a country because we do a lot of these things that are things that we can actually do once perpetually and wait for maybe another generation to again face the same. But not every other 5 years, every 5 years, every 5 years. So we are looking at those things, and I hope we'll have some discussion with him because he has very good things I want to.
I think I for once I agree with him. We cannot go the direction of creating more administrative units. If you look at the US, there is what is called the reapportionment of the congressional districts in the US. They never change the 435. I think they are 435. 435. But what they do is that they do something called redistricting, depending on the population. Because today, congressional district number 10 of California might have a smaller population. Tomorrow, it has double the population. And therefore, the representation is reapportioned to represent the number of people each congressman or congresswoman needs to represent. And that's how they do. You see this one, it does not change states, because they remain still 150 states. But they reapportion population depending on which area has this population or that population, so that there is even distribution of resources. Even if you look at their courage vote, how they distribute it, it means that smallest state that always starts with midterm elections, the Oyoo, state of Oyoo, with its 2 or 3 electoral votes, has a very serious say on who becomes the president of the Republic of the United States. And therefore, I would want to look at that issue in a way we do not lose money. Because as he's saying, if today you tell Kuria they will get their county, what are you going to tell us from Kiambu, who we are about to become 1.7 million voters? What are you going to tell us? If Kuria, which
Everybody
is
would want
has
that.
300 or so thousand, and therefore it is a very serious issue. And I am sorry, I don't know where Wakili stands on it, but most people who are pushing for these denominations, they are not pushing because of resources.
Why?
They are pushing because of additional elective seats that comes with it. Unfortunately, that's the truth. And therefore, I do not believe 1 minute, having traversed countries like China, the Middle East and other places, India, I don't believe we have a problem with representation. That's not our problem.
Can I just clarify
Wakili, and then you
before we
submit, if you allow me.
Okay.
Personally, from where I sit, we do not have a problem with the number of people representing us. That's not the problem. I think Kenyans' problems are two. One, the quality of representative that we have. And number two, the distribution of resources. Are they evenly distributed? That's from where I sit. And therefore, I think, as it is today, Kenya is by large overrepresented.
So actually, that's the reason why I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So are you of the opinion that we go for the one vote, 1 shilling? I don't know what.
I think for me, for me, the most important thing that we need to put keen on, it is this commission that is called the Commission on Revenue Allocation. That's what we need. Because let me tell you, whatever Wakili is doing and whatever anybody is doing, they are probably, Wakili here could be pushed by the fact when he looks at the national cake and how it is distributed, he feels Bureti is not getting the right cake. Because because today he has alluded to Garissa town. What is the population of Garissa town versus the population of Royal constituency?
Absolutely.
Which is the most popular?
Absolutely, and that is why it is what I was saying.
Yes.
Those are the issues that I was saying. First, I wanted to clarify that it is not that I want to have additional electoral units so that we contest for those positions. No. This is a constitutionally mandated exercise. It is an exercise that is born out of the Constitution. And basically, we are just trying to, how do I call it? Just trying to implement the Constitution the way it is. The Constitution says, before the general elections, at least we need to do the delimitation. And that delimitation must be carried out within after every 6 to 8 years. Which right now, if you look at after I think the next delimitation of boundaries ought to have been done sometimes in 2012, 2013, but it was not carried out. And that is why we are going to go to ask, why then? Why didn't you not do it? So it is not an issue of saying, I want more constituencies. No. Actually, we are satisfied with the 290 that are there in the Constitution. That is fair enough. What we are saying is that, can you just do, because delimitation and boundaries review is not additional only of the Constitution.
It can also be a reduction.
It can also be a reduction.
Yes.
Because, for example, I said Garissa town, because it is very small and the population is small, we can merge the two with maybe another constituency, nearby constituency in Garissa town, and have it as one. I also spoke to the issues of boundary disputes, which are very prevalent in my county. For example, in Kericho, we are having a big boundary dispute in Sondu area, Paponditi area, all the way to Moroni. There is even a 400-acre farm, coffee farm, that is being disputed between Anyang' Nyong'o and my current Governor Mutai. So if IBC can come in and clarify who is the owner of this, that is what we want. We not necessarily want to have additional.
Yeah.
Because it entails a lot. The delimitation and boundary review entails a lot. Even in Bomet, for example,
yes,
Kewasco, that is Kericho Water and Sanitation Company, is paying to Bomet for their water, because Bomet says, we are actually the source of this river that is coming to your place. So we must tax you. Yes. So those are the disputes where, because just it is actually this river, actually the source is in the boundary. So you wonder which way this river, does it belong to Bomet County or Kericho County? So it is a whole issues. We have to look at it holistically and not necessarily addition of. So those are the clarifications that I want to make. I want to make.
Okay, I think that is fair enough for that topic. So now we can just head to something else. So this week on Tuesday, the 10 points agenda report was released, and of course it has received equally opposing and even supporting voices in the country so far. So I just want to hear your submissions, because we all know how we ended up to that moment. I mean, how we ended up to the 10 points agenda. And one of the questions, as you just give your submissions, one of the key questions that I keep on asking myself, and actually even before when they were working on the NADCO report, I remember that time, immediately after the 2022 elections, the disputed elections, and then now people went to the streets, and then now the end point was the NADCO report. Now again, after the Gen Z's protest, we ended up with the 10 points agenda, and most of those times, of course, the opposition leader most of the time had to shake hands with the president. Absolutely. So again, even this one. So the report was given. I want to look at the few things that they said they have addressed or they've implemented so far. I'll be reading for you, but before that, we can just start giving the submissions.
Yeah, for me, that's a very pertinent question, Triza. The issue of the NADCO report and what the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga and William Ruto did is basically managing politics of expectations. After every electioneering cycle, we have the winner and the person who has not won. I don't want to use the word loser. But what Raila was advocating for, and which the president has embraced, is that we need to have now a framework where both parties can work together, so that we eliminate this winner takes it all mentality. In other jurisdictions like Nigeria, they have rotational presidency, where, for example, you had right now we have Tinubu, who is, I think, from the south, which is Christian, predominantly Christian, and I think the next president in Nigeria is going to come from the north, which is predominantly Islamic. So in Kenya, we don't have such an arrangement, but what we have now, we have seen seasons of handshakes, coalitions, cooperations, and now this one, what we have is this one between Raila and the
10 point.
Yeah, what was the name of this handshake for Raila and
the NADCO? The report
is talking about the formation of government between
this Raila. It was the handshake between Uhuru and Raila.
And Raila.
What is this? This between Ruto and Raila? What is it? What did they call it?
Broad-based.
Thank you.
Okay.
that's the reward I was looking for.
Yes.
So in Kenya, I think without us knowing, slowly we are sinking into such agreements where, unlike in Nigeria, where we have rotational presidency, we have also carved out our own identity where the winner shakes hands with the loser, and we have a general government. I think it's a good thing if you ask me. I think so far the NADCO report is addressing those issues. The 10-point agenda now, which is a product of the NADCO report, is a good. If you look at those 10 points, they are very good in my own estimation. We have inclusivity in government. We have accountability. They also talked about implementation. In fact, one of the first point of the what do we call
of the 10 points agenda was the NADCO report.
Yes, the NADCO report.
Yes,
implementation of the NADCO report.
Sure.
And then we also have, I think, inclusivity in government, where all tribes must be in government. And then we also have issues like integrity, leadership and integrity.
Yes.
So that we reduce this. And then wastage also, we also had to cut back on wastage. And also we have what we call
Reductions. Where are you running away from that?
Other than that, there is one which is coming to my mind. The issue of strengthening devolution.
Yeah,
I want to dwell on that. I want to dwell on that issue of strengthening devolution because I aspire to become a devolution expert. You know, devolution in this country is very sketchy. You actually think that we have devolved units, but the reality on the ground is quite different. because I can tell you for sure, even the way recurrent expenditure is being paid in the counties, they also have to look back to the national government. And sometimes when the national government has not authorized the money to be released, the employees at the county level have to bear with that. So they might even stay 2 to 3 months without salaries. So devolution, it looks good on paper. It looks as if we have decentralized power so that we have autonomous body in the shape of county governments, but the reality is different. It is not actually autonomous. It is semi-autonomous.
Okay.
So, but I like what the president did recently, because he signed an act which sought to increase the 15% that was supposed to be devolved to the counties to, I think, 26, so that we have more funding going to the county government. I think that is one of the agendas of the 10-point agenda,
yes,
strengthening devolution.
Actually, I can read for you the report,
No problem.
what they
Proceed.
gave out,
Yeah.
because it is what I have is actually in summary. So the first one was the implementation of the NADCO report. That one we are in agreement. And this is what they said, that Parliament received 9 reform bills to improve elections, governance and democracy in the country. They say that 3 laws already passed, others still being discussed. They say that new IEBC commissioners were appointed in 2025 and voter registration has started. That one is okay. Yeah, plans underway to review electoral boundaries. That is what we've been talking about. Proposals include creating offices like leader of official opposition and the prime cabinet secretary. Don't we have that?
Absolutely, it is. It is all about inclusivity.
I want you to read everything,
Okay,
so that now
proceed.
you can. No, the second one was inclusivity in public life, where the government said that they've launched a policy to support marginalized communities. Yeah, they have. That policy runs between 2025 to 2035. Then they talked of scholarships worth 500,000, fertilizers, education. I mean, equalization fund increased from 5 billion to 9.6 billion shillings. Then health, of course, expanded to 29.9 million people under the SHA. Then kuna walimu waliandikwa kazi, and then there is also the affordable houses. So that's what they said. They reported on the inclusivity. Then there was strengthening of devolution. County governments received more money from national government. That's what they said. Allocation increased from 385 billion shillings to 415 billion shillings. Then counties now receive funds on time every month. County assemblies given financial independence. Ilisikia pia MCA wakiambiwa watakuwa wanapata pesa yao. Yeah, they don't have to depend on the governors. Then another point they said is supporting young people. Still in the 10-point agenda. They said Nyota program helping 820. We all know about the Nyota program. And then they talked about training, mentorship and all that. They talked about the young people employed in the housing projects and also those who have been taken kwenye kazi majuu. Government said they sent 547,000 Kenyans to work abroad through the kazi majuu initiative. And then there's also other programs there. So according to them, looking at the figures right here, they are talking about around 1.3 young people have been employed through the government. That's according to that. Then there's now the leadership and integrity. Well, they said that new Conflict of Interest Act 2025 introduced.
Absolutely.
Yes, it stops public officials from using their positions for personal benefit. Then there is another one here. It's about this one, about a right to protest. And that is where now young people lost their lives.
Absolutely.
So they said that 2 billion shillings have been set aside to compensate victims of protest. And so far I had the Kenya National Human Rights Commission talking about they've given Kenyans a period of, is it 60 days? 60 days for them, those who need to be compensated, to bring in their claims, to report. Then IPOA investigated 820 cases of police misconduct. And then there was some officers who were convicted and disciplined. I think that is what the young people have really wanted to know. Who is this? And then there is now the government withdrew a bill that would restrict protests. we ni wakili utakuwa unatuambia ni gani hiyo, if it is true ama namna gani. Then now there was the managing of the national debt. The national debt is quite a problem in our country. Kenyans have been saying they want to know how much the country deni ya inchi ni ngapi, and so far we know it's around 12 trillion. So this is what they are saying, that government started a forensic audit of Kenya's public debt. Who borrowed? Can we feel it in the economy of the country?
Absolutely.
Then now reduced reliance on borrowing and explored new financing options. We are talking of the PPP, yeah? And then there is also the Eurobond buybacks done to reduce repayment pressure, and then a credit rating improved in 2026. That's what the government is saying. And then created a national infrastructure fund to finance projects. That one ndio tulianza nayo. And then now fighting corruption. Number 8. More government services moved online on e-Citizen. 23,000 services. I don't know whether, do you think that is going to be a solution to corruption? And then the new anti-money laundering law passed. And then EACC inasema kwamba 143 asset recovery cases worth 22.9 billion. Then 9.8 billion recovered. 86 corruption convictions done. That is between March, was it March? March 2025 to date.
Yeah.
To date. That is when the 10-point agenda was drafted, was done. And then there is number 9, the reducing of government waste. They are saying that the government cut spending through austerity measures. Then budgets for spouses of top leaders removed. Actually, I remember immediately, the second day after this, the controller of budget, Margaret, they gave out a report showing that the office of the deputy president spent how much. But then yesterday, they clarified. They said that that office was scrapped off. So there was no way that hiyo pesa ingetumika. And then there was the freezing on buying new government vehicles for 1 year, introduction of zero-based budgeting, so all spending must be justified. Then now the last one, protecting the rule of law. More judges and magistrates recruited to reduce court backlog. New court of appeal benches opened in Nakuru, Mombasa and Eldoret. E-filing system introduced, and then mobile courts launched and whatever. So, back now to you.
Yes.
I want to start with the last one.
No. Before you start, actually, so you address that question that I've always heard about. When people were sitting down to talk about the NADC report, mwananchi yule wa chini alikuwa kwa hii hesabu? Hiyo ni swali tu nitakuwa nimewauliza. So now, so wacha tuanze na huku.
I'll start by saying that it is a good attempt and it is a good progress that a lot of these things are now coming out. It's a discussion that we're going to have in this country. But the NADCO, talk about the 10 points agenda, because the NADCO is now one of the 10 points agenda. We look at this country and you look at the last point that we have there, protecting the law. That is not supposed to be a government, quote unquote. This is supposed to be a judiciary issue, and it is a judiciary that should have given us that report, protecting the law, because that report belongs to the judiciary. We talk about separation of power, and if you talk as the executive, you are talking for someone else. That is not your task. So one of the things we are saying in this country is that separation of powers is very important. And we have lost that seriously, especially if you look at the question of CDF. It has become something that you find that MPs seem to go to parliament just because of CDF, nothing else. And I think even governors facing problems with their county assemblies, and even now the president had to pass, there's a law that is passed to try and entrench CDF in the constitution. So what we are saying is this: we are inviting Kenyans as FreeKenya to basically develop their own, not this 10 points agenda, but to develop their own new ways to do these things, which is about the referendum you're talking about. Because some of these things are going to end up at a referendum, and we don't want to have a referendum that is done by the person who should wait and let us do the referendum as the directors, then we give you the work to do. You get the point? So we have a situation where the government participates in the referendum itself. You know what will happen. You'll have a situation where they are supporting something because of their own issue. but not for the issues of Kenyans. For instance, if you tell me about the Prime Cabinet Secretary, what does that help Kenyans with? Not much. I mean, a lot of Kenyans, if you ask them, if you went out here and you ask them, do you think the Prime Cabinet Secretary is important? They'll tell you no, not necessary. You get the point? Spending in government. You heard about the issue about State House having spent halfway through the year, spent all the money that was supposed to be for 1 year. So when somebody talks about reducing spending, what does it mean? What are we talking of? The same world in this country? So the reality of this is that we are taking this report, we are going to put it together with our team, and we are going to assess it and give a very clear response to this report. Okay. That is one of the things we are doing.
Okay. So before we get to you, Mucendu, there is someone on the line. Yeah, we have somebody who wants to also give their contribution all the way from Mombasa. I hope, Hedwin, you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah, please.
Very loud and clear.
Please give us your submission before we get to the other panelists.
Okay, I'll take less than 5 minutes because I know you have some other guests in the studio and they are supposed to be given much time to deliberate on this issue.
Go on.
My point one, the NADCO report was politically, it was not for the service of the common citizen, because the main agenda whereby they put a lot of their resources and the concentration was the creation of the office of the Prime Minister and the chief, the position or the office of the chief official opposition leader in the National Assembly, whereby they wanted to do away with the minority leader and the majority leader so that the official opposition leader can take that position. So it tells you that it was not about Shamir or Trisha or someone else in Nyanyuki, but it was about between the two people. Secondly, when we are talking about the implementation of NADCO report, I don't know why they are again saying that we need like another 3 months for us to be able to implement these things. And I want to be very clear that you cannot postpone injustice. When people are demanding for justice, you cannot tell them that right now we cannot give you justice, but allow us to postpone it so that we can give it to you in July. You cannot do that. Any democratic country, you cannot do that. And it clearly tells you that the leaders led by William Ruto, I don't know, it's called broad-based. Their main intention is not to implement whatever the citizens want, but their main intention to ensure that Ruto does anything which is going to favor the people he wants. He is very desperately looking so that those people can, in the year next year, they can vote for him, they can support him. When you look at the justice, the social justice, and in defending the Constitution of Kenya, which their report is talking about, right now people are still being abducted. We have seen what have happened to Raphael Tuju when we wake up today. We have seen what has happened to the chairman of Nairobi Hospital right now as we speak. We have seen what happened last week through the Linda Mwananchi, through the Gachagwa's rallies, and they are saying that these are the people the opposition are using sympathy to gain political mileage. If today that is the case, then we are ready to see someone throwing tear gas where Ruto is conducting his rally. If indeed that the citizens are the one carrying the tear gas, then this government should clearly tell Kenyans, where is that shop where the tear gas is being manufactured in Kitengela? Where is that shop in Kakamega where the tear gas is being manufactured, so that we can go and purchase that tear gas? Because we know that the tear gas is being imported in this country. So you cannot keep on politicizing everything. We are not in that stage. Kenya is a democratic country. Kenya is the country which have the best constitution in Africa. So we cannot derail our whatever we have achieved with this constitution, people to take us backwards. You have seen what happened when Ruto tried to force his people through the compensation panel, whereby he was creating the proxies officers whom they are is giving his own money to go and do ABCD. While Ruto knows very well that there's an office mandated to do that work. That is Kenya Commission of Human Rights. That is the office which was created constitutionally.
Kindly
So we
wind up.
want to
Wind
tell
up.
the president to stop playing the mind game and achieve the 10-point agenda as he agreed with Raila. It is not, he should not take advantage of the dead. Now he starts playing games with the Kenyans. No, we are not going to
Thank
allow
you.
that.
Thank you.
Patricia.
Okay, thank you for your submission. That is your those are your views. Thank you. Yeah. So now coming back to the studio.
Yes.
I can see.
I think one of the things I like about this country is that freedom of expression.
Yes.
That every Kenyan has a right to an opinion, as long as it is within the limitations that have been put therein. But I wanted to disagree with him on the issue of the preserving of the law. Because we have about 3 arms that play a very key role in the matters, constitution and law. We have the National Assembly that actually creates these acts of parliament. And you know that in our, it's called the jurisprudence, the constitution is the most supreme, then followed by the act of parliament and the rulings that are done by our courts. They form part of our jurisprudence. And therefore, when the government talks about preserving the law, I think it is within their right, because when it comes to matters law and Wakili is here, the judiciary is the adjudicator. The people who are supposed to implement the law is the executive, because who is mandated to do development in the country? It is the government of the day. There is a set discipline of law that you are supposed to follow as you are doing this, and therefore the biggest responsibility to safeguard the interest of our law lies with the implementer. And the implementer is government. And so when he says that it is not within the purview of government, I disagree, because it is the government that is doing the implementation, and therefore they are the people to safeguard the interest of the statutes of law that have been put, because everything that you have been given authority to do in our law has its limitation, and they are very well spelled. And therefore, as a person implementing that law, you have the responsibility to safeguard the interest of the law for the sake of the citizens. And when the government says in that point that they intend to preserve the law, I think they are within the right, because the judicially, normally, why do we go to court? Why are they in court? They are in court because they feel the government is overstepping their mandate. And therefore, if the person implementing the law, Wakili, would implement it to the letter, to their satisfaction, then they would have no business going to, other than the small part where I said it's a commercial wing, they would have no business going to court to say that this was not. Wakili is in court asking, why did IBC not implement the law as inscribed? So I think, one, I just wanted to clarify that government has the biggest role to ensure that they protect the integrity of our laws. That is one. Number two, when you look at the issues of the 10-point agenda, you see, and I keep telling people, the rule and the way we manage the affairs of this country can never be separated from politics, because There is no other way provided by this constitution of making a government other than a political process that is very well elaborate in our constitution. And therefore, when you have the leader of ODM and the leader of the ruling party UDA and the Kenya Kwanza government coming together to look at the way they are going to build a posterity that goes beyond 2027. They are doing this in the spirit of the fact that the only way you can make a government or create a government in this country, it is by through a political process that involves you going to convince Kenyans that your style of leadership is better for this country than his style of leadership. That's what we have provided. And then again, you recall people have not gone through the Political Parties Act very well, because there is a provision for what is known as the pre-election coalition agreement, and there is something else called post-election coalition agreements. And what you said is, and I agree, and one of the things why we end up people going to the street, it is we have built a system in a country called Kenya that is known as winner take it all. Because today, number two, who was number two, His Excellency Raila Odinga, who has been number two in the last 3 elections, doesn't get to go to parliament, doesn't get to be anybody in parliament. In
Absolutely.
fact, it makes no sense. He has to appoint a few people there.
Absolutely.
But fellows will not represent you better than you could represent yourself. But the political limitation in our constitution does not allow you to be part and parcel of government. The reason why subsequently you find that in Kenya we quickly, subsequently before 2007, we were quickly able to move out of election cycle and go back to parliament. It's because whoever was losing the presidency, or anybody who has ever lost the presidency, serious contenders, they are always elected members of parliament in their own constituency before Constitution 2010. So somehow they end up in the same parliament as those who won and became cabinet ministers. And that also provided them a level playing field of strategizing for the next election. But here, you have an election where if you lose,
Yes.
you are not a member of parliament, you are not in the Senate,
completely.
you are not anything, you are completely in the street. And in fact, that's why they go to the street, because where else will they go? Because they don't have an opportunity to go to parliament. And therefore, when they talk about having the official leader of opposition in parliament, I believe is a good thing. And I say this, one of the ways I got to understand the budget of Kenya growing up, I did not understand it from government. I understood it from what was called the shadow ministers. You remember the famous shadow minister, Bill Okero?
Yes.
If people would remember. Yes. I used to follow Bill Okero to understand budgets and what have you.
Yeah.
But they were able to do this because they were in Bunge.
Absolutely.
And Speaker Kaparo would allow them that, it was a standard practice in Bunge that he would recognize him as the shadow minister for finance. He would always get the first opportunity to critic government or critic the budget. Absolutely. Therefore, today I feel that is one of the things that would really bring some sort of level of playing ground, that we do not have a winner take it all. Even if you lose as a leader as a presidential contender and you become number 2, there is a provision for you to be in parliament or senate or whichever one they think, so that we can bring the country more close to the center.
Okay.
But the final issue, and I would want, and he has talked about, it is that democracy and expression, allowing Kenyans to express themselves. But I also want to remind our young people, and I have them, they are my brothers, they are my sister. I have Gen Alpha coming up in my house.
Absolutely.
There is a limitation to every right, because the Constitution is very clear that his right ends
Where you are
where
start.
mine begins. I keep telling people that is one thing we keep saying. You're stopping us from shouting. You're stopping us from picketing. Do you know that it is illegal for you to picket in a street in Nairobi without prior informing the police, so that because you affect other people's business? So what I am saying is, government has all the responsibility to ensure the freedom of expression as enshrined in the Constitution is maintained, it is respected, it is honored, and it is implemented to the letter. Equally, the people whose provision of freedom gives them the right to speak, they must also adjudicate this in a manner that is supposed to respect the other person, in a manner that is supposed to respect the right of the other person.
But at the same time,
yes,
everybody has a right to life.
You see, let me tell you, everybody has a right to life, eh?
Yes.
But do you know it is our laws that provides the police with the shoot to kill orders?
So exactly what he's saying is that it is not an absolute
It's not an absolute. It is not an absolute, because today, let me tell you, if you break into a police station, for instance, today, what are you expecting? You know the possible results. You may find a very born again person there who will not deal with you. You may find somebody else who is mad about implementing the letter, because that's the reason we talk about the spirit of the law.
Absolutely.
And the letter of the law. So what I'm saying, you have a right to life, but it is not absolute, because if you have a right to life and you go to steal as an armed robber, the police has a right to shoot to kill. Those are provisions of our Constitution. Well, what we are saying is, all the rights that are provided, they are not absolute, including the rights given to the police. And you see, this is where the problem I have, and I keep saying this, and I hope the Interior CS, my friend Kipchumba Murkomen, would hear me, and my friend Kaja, the police IG. One of the countries that has biggest demonstrations in the world, in a single day there is over 100 demonstrations happening at the corner. It is the city of Pali. The city of Police would have 100 demonstrations in a day, every day. I know he would have that history. He is in that space. What they did, the government established anti-riot police specifically for the city of Paris. You can have 100 demonstrations going on in Paris, but you likely not hear somebody has been shot, because there is a specialized force to deal with riots and demonstration, because my friend here, we also need to differentiate between riots and demonstrations. The two are very different. So I would request the Kenya Police to create a special police force that deals with riots and demonstrations, because sometimes I think we may end up using a lot of more force than we shouldn't. In a place we should not have used force, we should have. There is a video trending, I don't know whether you can remember. I have not really looked at it very well to know the actors, but there is a video trending of a lady trying to convince a crowd somewhere here in the country. A school, parents stormed into a school, they wanted to take the kids and what have you, and there was a very serious uproar with the teacher. There is a police officer there, a lady, who is seen speaking to parents for about 45 minutes, calming the parents down, calming the teachers down, and ended up sorting that issue of 100 parents and teachers and students, just 3 or 4 police officers. Because sometimes there is a situation that will call on your humanity side rather than you as the officer who is supposed to implement the law to the letter.
Absolutely.
The only way we can be able to do this is establish a special force. Know when you are dealing with demonstrators, you are dealing with people.
No, the limits.
The limits.
Yes.
And I also think we must also seriously invest in our intelligence surveillance. In Konza, where I work, if your face appears in more than 10 cameras within Konza, outside, you become a person of interest. The AI singles you, and it takes you to the higher level of person of interest. It will now spot every place you have gone. That way, our security apparatus at Konza will know this
Yeah.
person was authorized to go to point B. Why is he in C, in D, in
It's
F, and
everywhere.
and therefore, if we put our intelligence services in this town, we can be able to pick thugs out of demonstrators and be able to. So I think that whatever the 10-point agenda is presenting to us, it is not exactly 100% on where the country should go, but it is a starting point. And I think what we must work to, and the honors of the current government, it is to earn the trust of Kenyan through the political systems. When you hear them going to quote on infrastructure fund, they are a small fraction of many Kenyans who probably don't trust the processes of this country based on history.
Okay.
But then again,
Thank you.
I really ask Kenyans, this country has to move.
Absolutely.
We are already ready to develop our infrastructure. We are already ready to change our education.
Absolutely.
We are already ready to change our future of this country.
Okay.
We are already ready to make a safe haven for my 8-year-old daughter. So we have to move as a country.
Thank you.
And we have to support the government with its shortcoming, because there is no perfect government.
Thank you, Mucendu.
Let's
Thank
support
you.
government.
Yeah, we have actually 4 minutes remaining, so let's wind up with you.
Yeah, so mine is very, I think my two colleagues have covered the ground quite well. A lot of what they have said is actually what was on my mind. And just to pick from where Mucendu was left, we are late to Singapore. I'm told that in 1960s, actually we used to give money to Singapore. Singapore was a forest until they got their leader was Lee Kuan Yew, who transformed who transformed Singapore.
The city, yeah.
So if you Kenya and Singapore,
I mean the country.
Yes, we were on the same level, but today we are late and they are where they are. So we are actually late. On the issue of the NADCO report, I want to pick two issues only. Of course, the report is very comprehensive and it is very good. If it is implemented in the same way you've just mentioned, I will be a very happy Kenyan, and Kenya will progress. But of course, that is a matter of time. We'll wait and see how far they are going to implement it. But I just want to comment on two issues. Number one, the issue of public wastage and spending in public. You see in offices, public offices, you see people buying very luxurious seats, kuna gazeti, China, mandazi, a lot of things. It is not bad. But can we match that with the level of performance of these individuals? That is why recently there is someone who said that we need to interrogate whether we should have people on PNP anymore. It should be an outdated thing. People being on jobs for permanent and pensionable.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. Yet the output is very wanting. Unapata mtu amekaa pale more than 30 years in one office doing the same job over and over again, and because they have security or job security, they are no longer productive.
They are not productive.
So to make these people to be productive, let us have them on contract basis. Let us have what we call performance contracting, outsourcing of services, so that if you are not performing, then you quit. We get another person to deliver. And that I'm very serious on that, because if you go to government offices, be it in county or national level, there is a level of laxity that is always hanging around in the air.
Yes.
And you wonder why are these people? Kumbe it's because people are permanent and
even
pensionable.
this government parastatals and
Absolutely.
those places.
So
Yes.
there is a lot of wastage. People reading newspapers every day. People sitting on serious chairs. If you look at the chairs that are in the boardroom in some counties where I do not want to mention, are very serious. Yet we can just carry out in a normal table, and the order of the day will be carried out. So that is one. Secondly, I want to comment something on what the NADCO says on the compensation of the victims of the police brutality.
Yes.
Now, this is where Kenyans amuse me. First, they started by saying we want compensation. So the government came up with a task force to implement, to identify the victims and then compensate them. And then somewhere midstream, the Law Society of Kenya and Kina Nick, they went to court again. They said we don't want this compensation completely. What is it? We cannot pay someone who has been killed, So they stopped the process, they stopped that task force again. So then you wonder, what can the president do? The president tells you, I want to compensate you, kindly identify the victims. Midstream, someone goes to court and say, no, this task force must be disbanded. In fact, they even started discouraging that our president, our former president, Faith Odhiambo. They told her, if you don't resign, that the blood of the victims is on your hand. How can you participate in a process where you are compensated? You can't compensate a dead person.
Okay, so
it is. We are involving ourselves in circles. And just to last now.
We are actually time.
I want to encourage Nick that you do continue doing what you're doing, but also take note that these are no longer the national liberation struggles days, the days of Kinasam Nujoma. Those are gone. Raila, I think, was the last general in that area. So yeah, do it, but with limitations. Yeah. Thank you so much. Be progressive. Thank you.
I don't know.
Okay,
so have a last word with me.
I think we are done. Actually, unfortunately, that's all the time that we had for today. So please just say bye tukienda nyumbani.
Okay, mimi query yangu itakuwa ingieni www.freekenya.co.ke and let's have this discussion, our own people's NADCO.
Okay.
We also go to court on things that are important, like we have petition E122 of 2023 that is talking about that issue of demonstrations.
All right.
You will look at it and you will see we are there on court.
Well,
Thank you. Just
Thank
go
you.
to court for purposes.
Yes. Personally, I will ask Kenyans to support their government so that we can move this country to the other level. Now, tufuate pale leading a group called Jamii Mara Mashinani. We are going all over the country to tell the country what the government has done.